Ladies and gentlemen, on the Metropolitan Report, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, it's Alfred Parsar Jr. back again, hopefully not having a reason to yell on this stream. And I am joined by a close personal friend of mine, also a mentor, a fellow podcaster. He is the founder of the Grid Network, the host of the All Even podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Barry Grant Jr. Barry, welcome to the show finally for the first time in years.
Yeah, I mean, your show's been on for like 7 years, and this is the first time I've actually been on it. So, the
Second
fact
time. First
is
time
it
was
the
all
second
audio.
time? Is it the
Yeah.
second time? Oh, okay.
First time on video.
I see.
But glad to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Barry Grant is a fellow Mets fan like myself. And Barry, is no secret, the winter meetings took place this week. They wrapped up. Notable losses. We won't beat a dead horse here, but Edwin Diaz no longer a New York Met. He's gone west. Probably will.
We don't speak his name. We don't speak his name here.
Hey, listen, I'll speak his name because I have nothing but love for Sugar. He left because David Stearns. That's why he left. But he's probably going to get at least one ring during that 3-year contract. I would foresee. My guy, whose intro that he did on this show for years, I can't use anymore. Pete Alonso, he went to Birdland. He's in Baltimore, gone. And for lack of a better term, David Stearns and Steve Cohen have been the subject of much vitriol amongst the fan base this whole week. Before we get into the recent news, I just want to get your opinion on the losses of Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso. And do you feel that there, like what Steve Cohen said, that there is still enough time to put a playoff caliber team on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was Pete Alonso wasn't a shock. I mean, me and you have been talking back and forth for the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, that time is coming up for Pete Alonso not to be on this team. Like, you avid Pete Alonso fan didn't want to really see that and admit that, but I've seen the writing on the wall. The writing on the wall was there last year as well, when Steve Cohen stepped in and said, all right, David, like, we just got Soto. Yeah, look, we got to bring Pete back for at least this year. And that wasn't a big shock to me. It was just the fact that there was no counter offer. There was no real negotiation. They just let him walk. That was my biggest problem with the whole thing, just how it was handled. The Edwin Diaz thing was a shock. I think that it shocked the Mets. I think that it shocked the baseball world. I think that a lot of people were blindsided by that, just because all the reports, all the tea leaves, everything was pointing that he was returning back to Queens. And that in itself was I want to say that was a kind of a shot across the bow, saying that I need to go somewhere where I can have a chance to win. Not saying like if it wasn't the Dodgers, it probably would have been the Blue Jays. It probably would have been some other team where he's looking at them and saying, every one of these teams that I'm thinking about going to have a better chance to win outside of the Mets. And that's a message to the organization in regards to there's no trust right now, especially with players that are in their 30s that want to compete. Edwin Diaz didn't see enough to say that I'd rather stay here. So, that's the biggest thing for me, is what's the plan? Tell the fan base if we're going to retool, we're going to rebuild, we're going to, blow it, whatever it is, give the fan base notification, because whatever the decision is, the fan base will rock with you as long as you don't lie to them. And right now, the fan base feels lied to. They feel cheated. They feel like they're being told one thing and then other things are being done. And that's not the type of feeling that any Mets fan wants to have. We've been through enough as a fan base, as an organization, and Met fans are loyal to the death. But if you lie to them, they will fight back. Like, this is, I said it on on my Instagram. People can go check that out, or even podcast, that this is not Milwaukee. You can't just get away with certain things and expect the fan base to just accept it. They won't. And we'll see exactly what happens in regards to how he puts this team together over the next few months. But right now, it's kind of split down the middle. There's a lot of Met fans out there that are saying, well, let's wait and see what happens with David Stern. Let him cook, all of this other stuff. People like the fact that they've shaken up the core, while there's another side of the fan base that is devastated. They're angry. They want answers. They want heads to roll. There's a lot of things there's a lot of different emotions going on right now. So, we'll see what happens in the next coming months, man, to be honest with you.
And I've said it throughout the course of the week on my platform here that I feel that the core wasn't really the problem.
Yeah.
And you look at the core last season. I'm talking about, of course, Nimmo, Alonso, Soto, Lindor. You have Soto. He went 40-40 season. 30-30. I'm sorry. But he did finish with 40 home runs, over 100 RBI. Lindor also went 30-30 in the same season. Pete, 38 home runs, 128, I believe, RBI. And Brandon Nimmo drove in 92 runs. It was notorious that for anybody who paid close attention to this Mets team in 2025, that the pitching in the second half was atrocious. The bullpen blew leads, made deficits larger. We outside of Nolan McLean and on occasion David Peterson, no starter was getting to the fifth inning. So I feel, do you agree with me when I say the focus of what went wrong and what to address was misplaced? Because I personally feel the core was okay. They're not the reason that this team finished one game out of the last wild card spot last year. I feel that the bullpen and the starting pitching should have been the emphasis of whatever retool or revision that this is. What's your opinion on that?
Oh no, I agree with that, but how we see baseball is not how the president of baseball operations sees baseball. Like me and you were having a conversation, off this show, that Steve Cohen, when he bought the team, he's a fan. He went ahead and spent a lot of money. He spent the most money in free agency than any other owner, in regards to big dollars, right? Like, remember the Max Scherzer deal, remember the Verlander deal. Those things didn't work out, right? He went to go get Soto, largest contract in North American sports history. So, and then he went to go get Alonso as well. So when he has put his stamp on a free agency period, he normally makes a big splash personally, right? The Carlos Correa move that didn't go through, right? But those moves didn't work. So in his mind, he's like, all right, we've tried it this way where we throw money at it. And maybe we didn't throw money at the right places, but we did throw money at it. Maybe it's time for me to just allow David Stearns to build it his way and step back. Because you have to see the other side of it, right? If you hired this guy that you liked this whole time, that has a plan of how to build things, then you got to see it through. You got to see how he's going to do it, because then you can be able to have a better assessment if you're going to be able to keep this guy long term. If he fails and falls on his ass, then there's no excuses. There's nothing he can hide behind. There's nothing that he can be able to make an excuse for. You chose this road to build. It's not working. Now I'm going to find somebody else to build it the way I want to build it. And it's going to be a combination of me intervening while the other guy is having the plan. So Steve Cohen is still learning how to navigate being an owner right now. But I think him being hands off and letting David Stearns do what he wants to do, whatever his vision is for the team, I think it's a good thing, just because we're going to see what David Stearns has, whether you do have the moxie to build or you're just full of shit. You know what I mean?
Yep. And to that point, and I said it earlier this week. I've said it for months, dating back to when the season was in play. That you know, I got to give. If there's one place I could give David Stearns credit, his ability to build a farm system is very, very good, and we've seen that. He got Nolan McLean, he got Jonah Tong, he got Brandon Sproat, Carson Benz, Jet Williams still in the minors, right?
There's a lot of other guys too. Will
Exactly.
Watson. There's a bunch of pitchers down there.
There is a plethora of decent minor league talent that have come into the organization under his watch.
Yeah.
So I give him that. But at the same time, and you and I have discussed it many times off air, and then he goes and dumpster dives at the major league level. We've seen him bring Luis Severino to Queens, Frankie Montas, Paul Blackburn. When injuries struck this year, the Richard Loveladies and the Jose Castillos of the world, the Justin Hagenmans, the Brandon Waddells, Tyrone Taylor, like it just guys who either would not be on a major league roster of a team that was competing like a Dodgers, like a Yankees, and then, or guys who would be rostered on bad teams and be everyday players, like if they were in Colorado or Miami or Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So, granted, Griffin Canning worked out, but if you look at a guy's numbers, this is the type of guy that David Stearns likes. And I swear to everything, and you've heard me say this because we've had conversations about it before. David Stearns is the type of guy. Oh, if we're gonna get this guy, we're gonna pay next to nothing for him. And if it works out, great. We found a diamond in the rough. Things worked out, and we didn't spend that much money. And if it doesn't work out, good. We could cut bait. It didn't cost us much. And I think that's how he operates.
Yeah.
It's this, and I said it in my stream this weekend. David Stearns operates like the second incarnation of Billy Bean with his Moneyball strategy.
Yeah, it's definitely Timu Moneyball. It really is.
Now, as Frank the Tank said, he now hates that movie because of David Stearns. But nonetheless, a shout out to Frank. The one move that the Mets made at the conclusion of the after the winter meetings had already ended, they picked up. I want to call him a third baseman, but he's more of a utility infielder because he's played short in the past. He's played second base. But Jorge Polanco is now a Met. He signed for 2 years, $40 million. That's a $20 million AAV. And I actually like. Here's the thing. I like the move because the man has a bat.
Yeah.
But I have mixed feelings because you're asking a guy who's only played one game in his career at first base to play first base. Before we get into our opinions, I'm going to put up this graphic here. This was Jorge Polanco in 2025. He was a member of the Seattle Mariners. So not only did he play last season, he also played in the postseason. Here's his numbers in the regular season at a 265 average, which if you are watching this show, you know that I always say 250 is the modern day 300. So average, I have no problem with. He has power, 26 RBIs. He's a guy that bats 5th, 6th, or 7th on any given day. So the RBIs are not always going to be there, but or they may fluctuate. So not a 100 RBI guy, but 78, I'll take it. Not a stolen base guy, only 6 in the regular season. The OPS is what I'm looking at, 821. And then in the postseason with the Mariners last year, 208 average, but of course it's postseason baseball, different animal. But 3 home runs and 8 RBIs for Jorge Polanco in the postseason with the Mariners last season. Of course, that Mariners team that caught fire, as they always have done in the second half. They went and took the AL West out from the Astros. So I know the Mariners are hurting to lose a guy like Jorge Polanco. And I guess my favorite thing about Jorge Polanco, not forgetting his 686 OPS in the postseason last year. But my favorite thing about Jorge Polanco, and you know this from talking to me, the man's a switch hitter. And in a lineup where you have lefty power in Juan Soto, you have switch hitting power in Francisco Lindor. Now you add another switch hitter. This is a guy where, you know, say for example, it's late in the game, game's on the line. The opposing manager can't do a switcheroo. He can't put in a lefty for a lefty or a righty for a righty. It's not going to matter for Jorge Polanco. So, I really like this move from an offensive standpoint. Again, 3 home runs and 8 RBI in 12 games in the postseason last season, 48 at bats. Yeah, I listen. From an offensive standpoint, love the move. Defensively, like I said, only 1 game in his career he's played at first base, and that was in his rookie season with the Twins, all the way back in 2017.
Yeah.
So Barry, your thoughts? Do you like this move? Are you concerned about where they want him to play? And I'll even throw one more wrench in there: the log jam of infielders on this roster. Who's the odd man out? Do you feel? Who could get the axe if possible? Go ahead.
So to answer your first 2 questions, love the move. I think he's a good player. He's a guy that doesn't strike out much, a guy that does have switch hitting power, a guy that does like the big moment. It's really, really good to have a guy like that wants to play in New York. I heard that I believe that his father, something's going on, like something's with his father. I think it's in New York or whatever it is, but he wanted to come here. Like he was really, really motivated to be a Met. And that speaks volumes. He's never played in a big market. So that's a concern. But if a guy chooses to come here and he does have a flair for the dramatic, then that you hope can be able to translate to being in the big market, right? One of the biggest negatives that I have for him, it's just the fact that if you look at his career over the last 5 or 6 years, durability has been a concern for him. So if you can be able to get him to play at least 130 games, that's a plus for you. The fact that he has not played first base, and we heard that Jeff Passan reported that, the plan is to play him mostly at DH and first base. I mean, we got to wait and see. It's concerning that a guy that's never really gotten major reps at first base is going to now get some games at first base. That doesn't sit well with me. I'd rather have somebody that has experience, which I don't think that going into the season, that's going to be the only first baseman that we have on the roster. I do believe that he will add somebody else. I have a feeling like a Ryan O'Hearn is going to be somebody that they add, right? But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. To answer your third question, in regards to the influx of infield talent that we have, I don't believe that a lot of these guys are going to be on the roster. I don't believe that Mark Vientos is going to be here. With the addition of Polanco, Mark Vientos is pretty much done. Like there's nowhere for him to play because you're going to have Polanco at DH. You can't play him at third, and you definitely don't want him at first base. So where are you going to play Mark Vientos? So expect Mark Vientos to be moved. I can see Jeff McNeil also being squeezed out with this move too. Jeff McNeil, you don't need him to be your super utility guy anymore because you got Jorge Polanco, right? And then if you have Carson Bench who's going to be out there, so you don't need him. We'll see what happens with Mauricio. There is some potential there for him to be on this roster. Same thing with Luis Angel Acuna, but there is interest around the league for Angel Acuna as well. So we'll see if he's put into some trade talks, because we're hearing some rumblings about the Padres, about the Mets going deep diving into the Padres pitching, which I like that. There's a lot of talent on that Padres team, and if they can be able to pluck some of that talent away and be able to give up some of these pitching prospects as well and some of this infield talent, then yeah, why not? If we can be able to get a Mason Miller and give up a couple of prospects and put one of those infielder guys in there, why the hell not? Mason Miller is a stud. That guy throws gas. A guy like Nick Pivetta. Nick Pivetta is a guy that had 190 strikeouts last year. You want somebody like that, although we should have signed him last year where you wouldn't have to give up any draft picks, but that's neither here nor there. Outside of a compensatory pick. But, it's a good deal, but it's just like how we said with the Devin Williams deal, right? It's a good deal, but it's by itself, it's questionable. When you put the whole package together, if you add a whole bunch of other good players that are professional hitters that do have that bulldog type of mentality that you can be able to add, then now it makes a lot of sense to be able to have a more complete team, a more complete roster at the top of your lineup as well as the bottom of your lineup. And now you have a better chance to be able to be in postseason play. So if this is the start of getting some real quality guys in that rotation, pitching wise, as well as in the starting lineup, then we're fine. But just on his face alone, good player, but it's not going to be enough.
So here's my take as far as Polanco fitting in with the roster construction. As far as what the roster and the team looks like as of right now, not talking about any moves that are not made beyond Polanco being signed.
Yeah.
I feel that now, granted, we saw what Vientos did when Pete was moved to DH for a couple of games last year, and Vientos had to play rotten first baseman.
Terrible.
So I think he would be odd man out. I believe Brett Beatty bought himself a little bit of a leash with his second half that he had last season.
I think he's going to be a starting third baseman, honestly.
Yeah, and I can admit I was tough on Beatty during the first half. But he did improve as the season went along. I don't know if that's credit to Eric Chavez or not. I know how we both feel about Chavez, but
I think it's just credit to the kid. He just worked really hard.
Yeah, so I can't see Beatty being moved off a third. Another left-hand bat in the lineup. Lindor will be the shortstop unless, God forbid he retires or some act of violence or act of God takes him off the field. Marcus
Simeon, the franchise, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, Marcus Simeon, you traded for him, so you have and especially you traded Brandon Nimmo for him, so there's no chance he's not going to be the everyday second baseman.
Yeah.
Say Polanco DHs. I don't want McNeil at first. Say you put Polanco at first or what have you. I don't think that the Mets make a big splash because they have two outfield spots open. With Nimmo gone, now left field is open. And we've been searching for a center fielder for God knows how long. Because if we go into opening day with Tyrone Taylor, the starting center fielder, I'm going to be very upset. But with two outfield spots, I think they just move McNeil to left. McNeil has played left, right, and center in his career. So it's not like you necessarily need to go get a stopgap outfielder if you don't get anybody of big name value like a Bellinger or a Kyle Tucker this winter. So I could foresee McNeil in left or center to go along with either a Carson Benj or a Tyrone Taylor and have Soto in right. But very interesting because and then of course you either got to have Mauricio or Luis Angel Acuna on the bench. One problem last season was that neither of them got consistent playing time as the season wore on. Both were on the bench at the same time. And like I said, they're similar players to each other, both fast, speedy guys. The only difference is that Mauricio has a little bit more power because he's a switch hitter. Acuna, more of a contact guy. But I don't think those two could or should be on the roster at the same time. Either you got to get rid of one of them or have them both playing down on the farm to get more reps. Because like I said at the beginning of last season, I don't know if you remember, you cannot have a guy like a Mauricio or an Acuna up here to just sit on the bench and watch games every day. They gotta go to Syracuse. They gotta get reps. But if Polanco is going to be the DH, it's going to be very interesting to see what else Stearns does. Going to be very interesting to see how Carlos Mendoza how he's going to formulate this lineup because, the last two seasons, Francisco Lindor has been your leadoff guy. Juan Soto has alternated between second and third, but Pete Alonso is gone now. So who's the real thumper now? I would assume it would have to be Soto, but do you want the left-handed bat to be the thumper? Granted, the guy's coming off of a 30-30 with 40 home runs and over 100 RBI. third in MVP voting, first MLB All Team, and they still snubbed him in the All-Star game. But that's neither here nor there. But I do like what Polanco brings. My one other concern, because you did mention he's been injury riddled, never played in a big market, and this is very interesting considering the way that Stearns likes to operate. But and I said this on the stream earlier this weekend. It's funny to me that a guy like Pete Alonso, 31 years old, right, didn't want to give him the 5-year deal, didn't want to go past 3 years, but now you go out and get a guy who is older than Pete Alonso, and you just threw $20 million a year at him.
I mean, they're kind of the same age. I think Polanco's what, 31. So, but I understand
30,
what
32. But you get what I mean. You got rid of a guy because you didn't want a long-term commitment. And now here's the more interesting thing. Polanco's injury history, granted 1 year older than Alonso, but his injury history is far worse than Pete Alonso's is. Pete Alonso has never had a major injury. Pete Alonso, in the course of his career, has never missed significant time other than maybe about a 14-game stretch in 2023. Like, this is a guy who just played all 162 this season.
Yeah.
And you push him away, citing that he's going to potentially decline, no long-term commitment, power hitter, he might fizzle out. And then you go and get a guy who plays who has played much more physically demanding defensive positions in his career. Because obviously with first base, if you're not fielding, you're waiting for the ball to come to you rather than charging the ball, running after the ball, diving for the ball most times, often than not. And you get a guy who's a year older, who's more injury prone, has had worse injuries than the guy you just let walk. And, now you made a $20 million a year investment for 2 years. Granted, the commitment is not a large one, but do you think I have a valid point here, or do you think I'm reaching at straws?
I think that it's a different situation, just because you got to understand that when a general manager or a president doesn't like a particular player for whatever reason, it doesn't matter what that player does. Like, David Stearns was never a fan of Pete Alonso.
Nope.
Just because when you look at the analytics side of the game, when you go deep into the analytics and you look how he ranks as a first baseman in regards to his metrics, they're poor. They're bottom in the league in regards to his defensive rating. So when you have somebody who's heavily predicated on advanced stats and analytics, that's never going to bode well for a guy like David Stearns. I mean, and then think about David Stearns' teams outside of a few years of what's my man's name that's on the Brewers, man?
Yelich. Christian Yelich.
Of Yelich having a power, like that power where he was averaging like 30-something home runs a season for a few
2018 and 2019.
They don't really have much thumpers in that lineup. And I don't think that David Stearns really cares about guys that can hit 40 home runs that can't do anything else. And that's where I see his point. Like, if I'm going to put myself in David Stearns' shoes, that you want flexibility, you want versatility, you want guys to be able to do multiple things, I can see that. However, 40 home runs is 40 home runs. If you can be able to pencil in somebody that's going to hit 35 and 100 every year, I don't think that guy is the main reason why your team is not successful. But if you're going to make a point about how to be able to build your team, how you see fit, guys like him are going to fall on the sword. Guys like Brandon Nimmo are going to fall on the sword. Guys like Starlin Marte, whoever you feel the need that's going to get traded will get traded if you believe that they are not a part of your analytic way of building a franchise. So that's all I can say. Yes, the injuries are concerning for Polanco, but I'm not gonna label him an injury-prone player. We got to see how he plays, because the fact that they're gonna move him around, he's gonna spend the majority of his time at DH. I don't think that that's going to be a negative thing for him. I think that that's going to be able to keep him a lot healthier just because he's going to be able to spend a lot more time at DH. So, we'll see how it happens. I mean, the fact that Pete Alonso is a very, very durable player, you're not going to get 162 out of Polanco, right? You probably won't get 162 out of anybody on the roster because that's not how David Stearns wants to run the team. That's not how Carlos Mendoza wants to run the team. I believe that he wants to give guys rest when he can be able to give guys rest, right? You can probably pencil in Lindor for 152, Soto for the same thing. Give guys some time off to be able to at least get a break here and there. So, we'll see. But, it's just a different way of building things. I am a fan of having a lot of power in your lineup, but at the same time, I do love the fact that you can be able to have guys that are professional hitters that may not hit 40, but if you give me a bunch of guys that can be able to hit 20 plus, now you have a very, very potent lineup up and down that lineup. And that's a lot more dangerous than having a guy that can just hit 40 home runs while everybody else down the table looks like garbage.
All right. So let me ask you this now. It's come
out. One last thing that you did say that I disagree with. Jeff McNeil would not be on this team. He's going to be on Mars by the time spring training comes around. Well, go ahead.
No love for the former NL batting champ?
Not at all.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this. Now, like I said, it came out in the media, in the press release when they signed him, that this is gonna be the guy who they're gonna ask to play first base for part of the season. There are still first basemen out there, free agents. Rhys Hoskins being one of them that a lot of people are talking about. You mentioned Ryan O'Hearn earlier. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, do you think that the Mets are done looking for guys who could potentially play first? Mind you, Cody Bellinger is still out there, and he can play first base. We've seen it. There have been a couple of times where Paul Goldschmidt was out of the lineup for the Yankees last season, and Belly filled in at first. Of course, speaking of Goldschmidt, there were rumors that the Mets may be looking to bring in Goldschmidt for just a year. There were rumors of Wilson Contreras. They were working on a trade package for him for the Cardinals. But do you think the signing of Polanco halts all inquiries for guys who could play first going forward for this Mets club?
No, I don't. I do believe that David Stearns still has an eye on a few people to be able to fill that role on a more permanent basis. He did say that he wants Polanco to play DH and first base. That doesn't mean that somebody else can't also play DH and first base, and they'll just alternate that, right? O'Hearn is a big name. They still are keeping tabs on Cody Bellinger. What that means, we have no idea. They kept tabs on Suarez, and Suarez got a 3-year deal with no offer from the Mets. So keeping tabs on people when it comes to the Mets world doesn't mean a damn thing. The guy that I really want, and I hope that we can be able to get him, is Kazuma Okamoto. I think that that's a guy that defensively A+. We're talking about a guy that is amazing with the glove, plays third base, can play first base. That's a guy that has a lot of value for a David Stearns type of build, right? He also has a very good swing that does translate to the major league level. It's kind of like a David Wright style swing. And if he swings like David Wright, sign me up, right? So those are things that I believe, or those are players that I believe that David Stearns is definitely going to have his hand on. Let's see how far he goes for Kazuma Okamoto, whether he goes the 5 years. Let's see how much, if he's in the Bellinger market, is he willing to go 6? Is he willing to go 7? I don't think so. I think the most he'd probably be willing to go for a Bellinger would probably be 4 or 5 years, which we know that with the Scott Boras agent, that's probably not going to happen. There will be a team out there that probably will give him 7. He's just going to have to wait a while. But there are some names out there, and we have to remember that the trade market is still available too. Mets are very, very active in the trade market. I'm hearing, things in the background sources. I know that they're in on a couple of players. So, there's a lot going on with the Mets that we're not seeing. I'm still a frustrated fan because I don't know what the plan is, but we just literally have to sit back and see what's up.
Yeah, and not to mention also Stearns seems to have an affection for Munetaka Murakami as well.
Yeah.
Left Queens in the middle of the summer to go to Japan to go scout him, and apparently, from what I'm reading, the Mets are one of just a small handful of clubs that are interested in Murakami. They're saying that his market is very small, so
And his posting date is coming up, so
yep,
he only has another 9 days to sign a contract.
yep, before he's stuck with an NPB for another year.
Yeah.
Last but not least, the last question I'll ask you before we get out of here. There are 4 Mets from the 2025 season who are free agents who are not yet signed. Those Mets being Starling Marte, Ryan Stanek, Jesse Winker, Griffin Canning. Out of those 4, is there any of them that you would like to see on the roster in 2026?
Just one.
It could be 1, 2, 3, or all 4. Whoever you want to see back on the roster.
Just the fact that Griffin Canning pitched so well. Obviously, it was in not a small sample size, but pretty much half the season. That would be an interesting name to see if you can be able to get it on a reasonable deal, right? I think Starlin Marte, I would love to see back just because of the veteran presence that he does have. You want guys to be able to be locker room leaders, clubhouse leaders there. And he has a very, very good relationship with Soto that helped him really, really, find his way as a player here with the Mets. And obviously he can be able to do that with a lot of guys. So I like the presence of a Marte, just depending on what the deal is. I wouldn't be upset with that. Ryan Stanek, I don't want any parts of this team. I don't want him no parts of this. I just think that he just has not done well here. Is one of those Houston guys that just didn't pan out here. Like, he looked good in Houston, didn't look good here. So yeah, I think those, and Jesse Winker. I love Jesse Winker as a player. I love the fact that he's another good locker room guy. I just don't feel that he's gonna have anywhere to play here because he's basically at this stage of his career just a designated hitter. And you don't want to have multiple guys that are just filling out that DH role where we've dealt with this round robin of DHs since the DH has become universal. We don't want that again. So just because that there's just no room for a Jesse Winker, I wouldn't want him back, but I do like his personality. So out of all of those guys, I think Marte, Griffin Canning, I think that they would have the best opportunity or best chances to be able to be back on this roster next year.
Right. And to your point, Starling Marte, I felt, and I've said it throughout the course of the season last season, for a guy who's physically on the decline, for a guy whose role on the team diminished.
Yeah.
He played very, very well. 293 at bats in 25, 270 average, 270 for a guy who doesn't play every day. 9 homers, 34 RBIs. Still has a little bit of quickness. He stole 7 bags last year, and his OPS is 745. 745 for a physically declining outfielder. And also, like I said, I thought he was going to be off the team by the trade deadline. I was proven wrong. And I always said that if he did get traded, he would make a great teammate for young and up and coming players in like a Colorado or a Chicago White Sox type situation, or even, well, maybe not the LA Angels. There's no hope for them, but anywhere that he would have gone. The Pittsburgh Pirates, even though it's unlikely that he and McCutchen would reunite at this point in their careers, but you get what I'm saying. He would have been a great clubhouse guy, locker room guy, mentor guy. I think if he does end up back, it's because something that Juan Soto wants.
Of course.
As you mentioned, their relationship was very, very close. And then I know you said you would like Griffin Canning back. Now you know how I operate. Guys who are coming off of major injuries, because at the start of last season, or this past season, I let Paul Blackburn basically have it on every episode I brought his name up. I feel like if you're going to be a team that, and I don't feel like this Mets team in 26 is going to be competitive the way the roster is now, but that remains to be seen. But if you're going to be a major league club and you say you want to win, there's no time to nurse these guys back to health on the clock and do some on-the-job training. It didn't work with Paul Blackburn. It didn't work with Frankie Montas. And Griffin Cannon's coming off of a blown Achilles. That's not an easy injury to, and it's off of his lead foot when he pitches. So, I mean, I guess if he does come back, Stearns is going to get him on the cheap, probably bring him back in a minor league deal. 16 starts last season, 7-3, which is amazing considering that this guy never had a winning season as a starting pitcher in the league ever up until last season. 70 strikeouts and 76 in the third inning. So, I mean, Canning, it remains to be seen because who knows? Had he stayed healthy all year, we don't know if he would have regressed with the rest of the team into what he truly is, or if he would have kept this up all year long. We'll never know because it didn't happen.
Right.
But I would like to see Griffin Canning back on a minor league deal.
Yeah.
Bring him to camp, bring him to Port St. Lucie, see what he's got. Give him a minor league deal, no major league guarantees. Probably start him off in Syracuse, and depending on what this rotation is looking like, because he's not going to make I would not want him in my rotation over Sproat, over McLean. I wouldn't want him over Peterson if Peterson sticks around. Wouldn't want him over Clay Holmes. Maybe put him in a fifth spot because I don't think Tong, like I've told you before, I don't think Tong is major league ready at this stage.
Not yet.
But then also we've got wild cards. We don't know what Christian Scott is going to look like. It seems like everybody's forgotten about Christian Scott.
I'm excited about him.
Yeah, Sean Manaea is still sticking around. So this, and then who knows? Only God knows at this point if Kodai Senga will be major league ready by the time late March rolls around. So I mean, the Mets technically have a log jam at starting pitcher too. And everybody's wanting a trade package for Tarek Skubal, which I don't think will fix anything. Because, that's like putting a Band-Aid over a wound. You got one solid Cy Young caliber pitcher, and then your rookie sensation, and then everybody else is like, everybody else is like the spare ornaments on the Christmas tree. So, it remains to be seen, but only time will tell what Cohen and the Harvard graduate boy wonder will do for the rest of this organization. But Barry, thank you so much for stopping by. It was a long time coming and overdue. Tell the good people where they can find your show, where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, man, you can catch my show on Instagram at All Even Podcasts, X at All Even Podcasts. On TikTok at All Even Media. I'm on streaming platforms as well. My show drops every, sometimes Friday, sometimes Saturday, depending on, how we do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm always on Instagram posting things and voicing my opinion. So you can always drop a comment, follow my stuff, agree to disagree. I'm always for the smoke, man.
I got one question for you before we wrap it up. Is your dummy button working?
Of course it is.
Dummy, yeah.
All right. One last question. Who in the Mets organization as of right now, could be a player, could be a coach, could be an executive, could be the owner. Is there anybody you would press the dummy button for? Who would it be? You don't have to say why. Just say the name and hit the button.
David Stearns.
Dummy, yeah.
I think that 95% of the Flushing faithful and Mets Nation would agree with you, sir.
Yeah.
But folks, that's Barry Grant Jr. Again, All Even Podcasts on YouTube. He's all over the place. He's on TikTok, Instagram. Check him out, and also he's got Mets segments as well on his platform. Again, if you're watching this on our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button because I know for a fact there's more than 175 of you out there that watch this. I got eyes on it. But Facebook, hit the follow. Twitch, hit the follow. Follow us on X. We'll be posting there consistently. And We'll be bringing you more off-season coverage as the off-season rolls on. Barry, thank you again, and
Yes,
I'll
sir.
talk to all of you soon.